Okay, good morning. I'm going to stop talking until this echo stops.
Hello.
Good morning. Bear with us, we're dealing with some audio issues in the room. For those of you joining virtually, please give us about 5 minutes or so. We're working out some audio issues in the room. Testing. Oh, that seems to be working. I don't hear any echo. Testing. Good morning. Great. Okay, welcome. Good morning. Thank you everyone who's joining us live and virtually. We're here at the Hall of Administration in room 374. If you are still looking for us, come up to the third floor. Thank you for those of you who are joining on WebEx. If you're having any technical questions, or also if there's any issue with the audio or video, can you send a chat to the host, please? We'd love to hear from you and try to correct it. We are waiting for 2 commissioners, but we do have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started in a minute. I'd like to just remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone, since most people are participating virtually today in the audience, so that they can hear us. It is 9 o'clock. It's actually maybe a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and we are recording this meeting and streaming it live on YouTube. So we are ready to get started whenever you are, Chair Mundo.
Good morning. It is 9:05, Thursday, April 24, 2025, and I'm calling to order this special meeting of the Los Angeles County Probation Oversight Commission. I am Eduardo Mundo, Chair of the Commission. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing from our commissioners and the public today on one emergent issue: the need to depopulate Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall following Judge Espinoza's tentative ruling in the order to show cause hearing on April 18, 2025, and the Probation Department's indication that their response to the ruling relates to the need to move forward quickly on the proposed global plan. Since this is a special meeting, there will only be one agenda item and one opportunity to give public comment. If anyone wants to give public comment on topics that are not on today's agenda, you are welcome to do so by emailing us at info@poc.lacounty.gov or attending our next regular scheduled POC meeting on May 8th, 2025. Lots to discuss today, so let's get started. I will turn over the mic to our Executive Director, Whitney Julian, to explain how you can participate during today's meeting, and then she will call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Mundo, and good morning. I want to start with some words of gratitude to the staff of the Probation Oversight Commission for putting this emergency meeting, this special meeting, I should say, together so quickly. And especially thank you to the commissioners, many of whom had to change their schedules around to be here today for this important issue. I really appreciate it. So since this is a special meeting, we can only do business that's contained in the agenda, consider and discuss it. There will only be one opportunity, as Chair Mundo said, for members of the public to share comments, but we definitely want to hear from you. That is the main point of today's meeting. That will be during agenda item number 2. Chair Mundo will introduce the item. We'll have a discussion. The commission will discuss, then we'll take public comment before taking any action on the item. This meeting is scheduled for 2 hours. We've set aside 40 minutes for public comment, allowing the opportunity for 2 minutes per person. But if there are more than 20 people that want to give public comment today, we may consider reducing the time per person to hear from everyone. As a reminder, please speak directly into the microphones so that everyone can hear you well. Please respect the following guidelines. I'd ask you to stop speaking immediately when your time ends. I'm going to set a timer on my phone. You'll hear the beep, and I will unfortunately cut you off when your time is over so we can hear from everyone. Make sure your comment relates to the item on the agenda today. Remain respectful of each other and the forum. And if a person engaged in conduct that disrupts the meeting, they are subject to being removed. If you're here, it's easy. You just come to the front, to the microphone that you can see. Thank you for joining us. If you joined via WebEx or via telephone, please use the raise your hand function to join the public comment queue. On WebEx, it's easy. You tap the little hand icon and we'll add you to the list. If you're calling in, please dial *3 on your phone, and that will raise your hand for us. Once we call you, and we'll call you with your phone number, you have to dial *6 to accept the unmute request. If you have any technical questions or can't find the hand icon, please send a chat to the host. But please do not send your public comment in the chat to the host. That will only be seen by POC staff. It doesn't get to the commissioners. It's not attached to the agenda, and it doesn't comply with the Brown Act. If you'd rather make your comment in writing, please send us an email, info@poc.lacounty.gov. We'll put that in the chat. Our special meeting is being broadcast live today to our YouTube channel. Thanks to all of you who watch on YouTube. That's actually where we get most of our engagement and viewers, but we do not engage with viewers on YouTube. We encourage you to subscribe so you can watch the live meeting, the recaps and recordings. Also follow our social media for information about future meetings and reports on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at LA County POC. Buenos días, bienvenidos. Ya hemos iniciado la conferencia por Webex y en persona. Si le gustaría hacer un comentario público en español, por favor haga clic en la imagen de la mano y abriremos un micrófono. Si está escuchando la conferencia por teléfono y quiere hacer una pregunta, por favor presione estrella 3 y le avisaremos cuando sea su turno. Si está viendo la conferencia en vivo por YouTube, no puede hacer comentarios públicos. Tiene que conectarse vía Webex. Le daremos el doble del tiempo y yo puedo proveerle traducción al inglés o usted puede proveer su propio traductor. Al iniciar su comentario, nomás avísenos que quiere hacer su comentario en español. Gracias. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioners, please respond when I call your name. Commissioner Dolores Canales?
Present.
Commissioner Brooke Harris?
Present.
Commissioner Ishay Jackson?
I am here.
Commissioner Millie Kakani?
Present.
Commissioner Don Meredith, we are expecting, but has not arrived yet. Commissioner Sam Prater wishes to express his disappointment about not being able to be here today. He had another engagement that he was unable to change at the with the short notice. Commissioner Tyreek Shipp has indicated he will be here momentarily. I'm going to go back. Commissioner Don Meredith is here in the room now. Good morning, Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner Tyreek Shipp will be here momentarily. Commissioner Diane Terry.
Present.
Commissioner Chair Eduardo Mundo.
Present.
So Commissioner Mundo, with the absence of Commissioner Prater, we have quorum and we will note on the record when Commissioner Shipp arrives.
Thank you, Wendy. Let's proceed with item 2, which is to discuss and take possible action on supervising Judge Miguel Espinoza's tentative ruling in the order to show cause hearing on April 18, 2025, directing the Los Angeles County Probation Department to provide a plan to depopulate Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall by May 2nd, 2025. The POC will also discuss the Probation Department statement about the ruling correlating the decision to the need to move forward with its global plan. The POC will give the public an opportunity to share concerns and opinions, and the POC may take action on recommended alternatives which have been attached to today's agenda. Joining us today to answer questions about the court hearing is Deputy Public Defender Michael Thyberg from the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office. David Carroll, Director of the Department of Youth Development, is also here. We invited the Probation Department's leadership team on Monday, but did not receive any response. And currently, as I look around, there is no one here representing probation today. To continue, Wendy will summarize Judge Espinoza's findings on April 18, 2025.
Thank you, Chair Mundo. I'm going to read a summary that that we created. And actually, before I start, welcome Commissioner Shipp, and we'll note in the minutes that Commissioner Shipp is here today. This is a summary that I wrote with the help of my colleague Jonisha Smith after listening to the hearing on Friday. And we have gotten some input to ensure that it is as accurate as possible. So I will read it for the purpose of the audience understanding what the ruling was, not as any legal interpretation of that ruling, if that makes sense. So Judge Espinoza on Friday issued a tentative ruling in the order to show cause hearing in favor of the defense, deeming Los Padrinos unsuitable for the further detention of youth, ordering probation to return in 30 days, and to submit a proposal and timeline for depopulating Los Padrinos by May 2nd. This was a hearing that was called an order to show cause hearing. There was a real person in the courtroom for whom the case was being heard, but it was the result of Judge Espinoza bringing a bunch of cases together. But I just wanted to say that this was actually a case about a real human being. In fact, all of about the conditions of confinement for a real human being and all of the people who are similarly situated to him in Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. So while these are addressed as policy matters, they do in fact impact real people. Welfare and Institutions Code, this is what Judge Espinosa explained. Welfare and Institutions Code Section 209 requires detention facilities to maintain certain minimum standards and designates the BSCC to ensure these standards are met. The BSCC has found Los Padrinos out of compliance with subsections A and B of Section 1321, which require sufficient staff to keep youth and staff safe and ensure that no required services are denied. Ratios are just one component of this section, and a facility must comply with all subsections to be fully compliant in Section 1321. Judge Espinosa also noted that the current situation is untenable. That was his words. And it does not seem as though the probation department can bring the facility to minimum standards in the short term. The use of the facility is unlawful, and the court must protect the rights of the youth who was subject of this hearing and the other detained youth to live in a safe environment. So the court, Judge Espinosa issued the following tentative ruling in favor of the defense. The direct order to probation to submit to the court a proposal and timeline to depopulate Los Padrinos in a manner that does not cause harm to the youth until Los Padrinos comes into compliance with state law. It must include a protocol for prompt evaluation consistent with the unprecedented emergency. It must also include a plan to inform youth and families of the impending transfers. Given the urgent nature of the crisis, the court expects probation to begin the process in 30 days and adequately support all youth who remain housed at Los Padrinos during the depopulation process. He also noted that it is possible that some youth, a reduced population, may remain at Los Padrinos, but the facility must be re-inspected by BSCC and brought into compliance. Probation's proposal is due to the court on May 2nd. The BSCC may submit supporting documentation by May 9th, and the next court hearing date is May 16th. I am curious whether Mr. Theberge has joined us from the Public Defender's Office, and would just ask whether I missed anything in that description about the ruling. Can we bring him up as a panelist on the WebEx? I don't know who I'm looking at. Michael, you now are able to unmute yourself, and I would just ask if I missed anything in that recap that you would like to add.
No, I don't think you missed anything.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Mundo.
Right here. Okay, part 2 of today's meeting is to discuss the POC's recommendations and to give the commissioners and the public a chance to talk about the impact of Judge Espinosa's ruling, but also to make some concrete suggestions about how to successfully and safely depopulate Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. You may have noticed that our agenda for this meeting also mentions probation's response to the ruling and the connection to the global plan. In their media release after the ruling, the probation department said that they will move swiftly to implement a depopulation plan for Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall that aligns with their broader facility strategy and prioritizes public safety, and that the existing proposed global facilities plan already called for relocating high needs young men and women from Los Padrinos, and this ruling allows the probation department to accelerate that effort. At the last POC meeting, the commission voted to approve some recommended changes to the global plan. The chief's response to those recommendations were that they did not provide a helpful alternative to aid the department in coming into compliance with the DOJ, the BSCC, and the board's initiatives. As a reminder, those recommendations were that Kilpatrick be fully utilized as a secure youth track facility step down for boys and young men. Girls and gender expansive youth not be sent to Kilpatrick. And number 3, that Camp Page remain open. After that meeting, the elected leadership team of the POC began to develop a set of recommendations that would be more helpful in addressing the need to reduce the population at Los Padrinos. This was not a difficult task because reducing the population has been the main goal of the commission for the past year, and the commission has conducted hundreds of hours of public and private meetings with youth, families, probation, attorneys, advocates, and partner agencies, and facility visits and received hundreds of public comments, conducted dozens of inspections of the facility, visits multiple times at each facility to inform these recommendations. Because of the Brown Act limitations, only the 3 POC leadership participated in the formal drafting of the recommendations, and today is the opportunity for the full commission to weigh in. The recommendations are attached to the agenda. We will put a link to them in the chat, and we have made paper copies for those of you here in the audience. I won't read the entire document, but here are some of the highlights. 1, many youth currently detained could be safely released to the community, and probation should revisit their original detention reports to make sure they were done correctly and make more nuanced recommendations. 2, hundreds of youth come into the facility every month. By fixing intake and properly recommending release and CDP, we could drastically and quickly reduce the population. 3, there is room at DKC for most of the predisposition girls and 10 of the most vulnerable predisposition boys. They should be moved there. It is most therapeutic, home-like healing environment we have, and it is underutilized. Number 3, there is room at DKC for most of the Number 4, there are boys at LP who could safely be cared for and held at one of our campsites in a less restrictive, safer alternative where they would be supervised by experienced, skilled probation officers. The recommendation suggests Camp Page as this alternative. These suggestions could safely and quickly reduce the population by half, giving the department a real chance to come into compliance at the facility. So I would like to make a motion to accept the recommendations outlined in the attached document. Can I have a second before continuing our discussion?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry.
Eduardo, so does that mean that we're approving all the language and all the recommendations, or
We're-
we have feedback?
We're going to
about
talk
that?
about it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just we're going through the motion part, then we'll go ahead and have a robust discussion. Can I have, okay, I did that. During the discussion, I welcome your suggestions to delete, add, or change any recommendations, as well as your overall thoughts about the issues. Thank you, Commissioner Terry, for the second. Commissioners, I will turn it over to you for comments and questions. Please raise your hand where I can see you. Commissioner Meredith?
Well, first of all, since these are drafted,
Thank you. I don't think it's turned on. Yes, great.
okay, since this was drafted in a vacuum by 3 commissioners, we didn't have a lot of input into it. Also, there was no community input. I point that out because before you were ever on the commission, I had to deal with issues out in the cities of Laverne and San Dimas regarding Camp Page, Afriba, and Rocky, and the housing of youth. Since this was publicized, I have received phone calls and text messages and emails from leadership in those communities, elected, law enforcement, and the citizens having serious concerns about the use of Camp Page for expansion. Number 2, the chief has not yet published what his plan is to address the depopulation of Los Padrinos. So I think we're putting the cart before the horse. And like I say, I'm not pleased about how this was done in a vacuum, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner Terry?
Are you able to share, Commissioner Meredith, what some of the concerns were with Camp Page and any expansion there?
That community, both those communities out there are very concerned about any expansion of the programs they have out there. They're in agreement with one of the proposed expansions to use the Sunburst Academy expansion to betterment the youth out there. Their concerns are that they've had escapes out there, they've had assaults out there. Recently, they had to respond out there to a disturbance, and they're concerned for the safety of their community, which borders the camp and its facilities, number 1. And it's a very politically sensitive area that had we reached out to them, we might have had a better response. That was the problem we had the first time around. We're talking about using those camps 2 years ago, is that we did not do a good outreach to them, and it created a lot of hostility towards probation.
Commissioner Canales.
Well, I guess it depends on what community members you're listening to, because that's actually how I found out. Community members from the city of Laverne were shocked and appalled that the chief of police and the police department of Laverne were sending out notices to the community that we must support the chief's global action plan and shut down Camp Page as promised years ago. So while you say community, I also speak for community and community members, and I have the evidence right here on my phone from who I'm hearing from Laverne.
Yes, and I understand that, but I'm talking about elected officials, city management, community members within that community that I deal with almost on a daily basis because I live in those communities. I hear from them regularly. And yes, I'm aware that the police department did put that out, which did not make me happy. I would have preferred that we had a chance to outreach the community first. However, it also went out through their city management leadership, and all those San Gabriel Valley leaders are talking about this problem.
So would you say the police department did that in a vacuum?
Well, I wasn't included in that either, just like this commission. I was included. That's why I'd say yes, it's a vacuum.
So it's interesting that you bring up probation and how they responded when we were having the discussion as a community about secure youth track. I agree with you. It was poorly done. But prior to being on this commission, as you pointed out, and prior to being the chair, I actually spent 3 years working at Camp Page. And at the time, Camp Page had over 100 youth. Camp Rafabal had over 100 youth. And the community coexisted well. We had no complaints. We had no issues that I can recall. That's 200 kids up there that were minding their own business, doing their programs with some really good probation officers, protecting the community and those youth. You know, we're in the crisis now, and I understand that that small community is worried, but we're a large community, and we are in charge right now of trying to care for over 280 youth who are in pre-dispo in a facility that the current leadership team has not been able to address. So, I mean, we're more than open to having the community here, and we would explain that. And I wouldn't do what the probation department did, go in there and tell them that these kids are the same when they were trying to bring the secure youth track kid. They marred it, they blew it. And I know this chief wasn't involved then, but this is a crisis, and a small community should not stop what the county has to do.
You're right. This is a crisis created, A, by the state legislature and by our own makings to a degree over 23, 25, 30 years. However, that said, we need to take into consideration the needs of those communities. We need not to operate in a vacuum. We need to be transparent, which we have not been. And we're only an advisory body. We can't tell the chief what to do.
Commissioner Canales.
I just want to address the public and address the commissioners. And I feel why we felt compelled to act swiftly and quickly was because we did not want history to repeat itself. As you know, since you have been a commissioner for decades, Commissioner Don, the last time that the chief was ordered, and it was a different chief, but the last time that the chief was ordered to depopulate immediately, it caused trauma. It caused harm. It caused so much chaos and confusion because we sat back and we waited patiently and trustfully for them to do the right thing as they decreased the population. We stepped back and we did absolutely nothing. And do you want to know what happened? When they were moved at a moment's notice and probation was not even notified, the warehouse workers were not even notified. They were shipped to a facility where they did not even have mattresses because they were not aware that the moves were going to take place. So while you say that we operated in a vacuum and while we did this on our own, we did this with the full intention to make sure that this is done with public communication, with input from probation, with input from community members, with input from everybody to come up with a plan so that history does not repeat itself, so that youth are not traumatized as the last time that this happened.
I'm just going to close with this and no further comment after this. The vacuum I'm referring to is 3 commissioners met to discuss this without the input of any other commissioners. For going the Brown Act, it could have been funneled through the executive director to what are your thoughts, what are your ideas, what are your concepts, and where are we at on this? That's where I'm talking about the vacuum of non-transparency. All of a sudden, we're having a meeting here that I have been basically told what we're going to do.
Well, no one has told you what we're going to do, but I will say this. If it were a vacuum, this would be settled, but what I'm seeing is we're having a discussion and you're having your voice, and the commissioners that are here are going to have their voice, and the public that is here is going to have their voice. And if the good citizens of Laverne are online, they're going to have their voice. So it's not a vacuum. Some things just have to happen expediently so we can move. This is a working document. It's not a settled document. Commissioner Harris.
So Commissioner Meredith, I want to talk about something that you brought up, which is that the chief hasn't published a plan. My opinion, and I said this at the Board of Supervisors meeting in December when the Board of Supervisors put together their emergency order, is that probation has been insulated from actually coming up with a practical plan. And no one has approached this from a practical matter. This facility has been operating unlawfully, illegally for months, and everyone has pushed off decisions. The emergency order, frankly, shielded probation from doing anything practical, like coming up with a 5-page document to say, let's look at this, let's look at the population, let's look at who's here, let's look at who's, what needs they have. It's just been politics, and it's sickening. And so I think it's appropriate after this has been going on really since October, but, hit a crisis in December. There's been 4 or 5 order to show cause hearings where the decision was pushed off. Probation, again, has been insulated by the emergency order since December. The BSCC has come back, and the things that they have found that probation is not in compliance with are really serious. And I'm looking at you because you're across from me. I'm not upset at you. I'm just trying to say to the public that this is really harmful. It's really serious. And no one has put together, Hoops for Justice, Young Women's Freedom Center, Beloved Village, Youth Justice Coalition, Returning Home Project, put together a plan. Why hasn't the chief done that? It's not hard. He came up with a global plan, but that was just about facilities, not about people. Wendy, at the beginning of this, talked about real people. There are 500 kids under the care of probation. There are not enough staff to safely supervise those kids and to safely supervise adults and young people that need field services. Probation doesn't have it. The bus signs aren't working fast enough. We're not going to get there. We have to depopulate in a safe and practical way, and it's just time to talk about it publicly. That's my opinion.
Commissioner Kakani.
Thank you. I just want to lift up that fact that the kids inside of Los Padrinos are not safe. And that should really be our priority. And I don't think that we're taking, not we, but it doesn't seem like the probation department is taking seriously the fact that we are very close to losing another young person. The fact that there were 3 overdoses that resulted in a hospitalization, I believe 7 additional overdoses that did not result in a hospitalization but still occurred in a single 24-hour period is something that should disturb and frighten and concern all of us. We have an obligation to ensure that these young people are safe as the Probation Oversight Commission. And all we are doing is making recommendations. I have yet to see a meaningful recommendation from the probation department that will actually result in the well-being and safety of anyone. Wendy, I did have a quick question. I believe you said that Judge Espinosa shared that LP was unsuitable for the detention of young people, correct?
I actually think that would be a better question for Michael to answer. I think that's
Okay.
exactly why he has joined us today.
Okay.
Michael, if you're willing to respond to Commissioner Kakani's question.
Yes, the judge specifically found that operation of law was unsuitable for the detention of youth.
Okay. And obviously the BSCC had already made that determination as well, but now you have a Superior Court judge reiterating that. And so I want to lift up the fact that every single day a judge in juvenile court orders the detention of a young person at LP or continues the detention of a young person in LP, are they too essentially violating the law? I don't know if you can answer that.
Well, I think the situation is, since that's the only existing, juvenile hall facility at this point, that whenever they order a youth detained, they must know that that youth is ultimately going to be detained at Los Padrinos. The facility by operation of law is supposed to be unlawful to continue to house youth. So this should be, up front and center in every judge's mind at the time that they're even considering, detaining a youth. The fact is that that youth is going to be detained in a facility that is unlawful, that shouldn't be used to detain youth.
And judges are making orders, essentially, perhaps not explicitly, but when they are ordering the detention of a young person, they are doing so in a facility that is operating illegally. I just think it's important to name that, because although we're here articulating that this is a probation issue, it is also a judicial issue, as orders are being made that call for young people to be caged in a facility that is operating illegally. I also just wanted to lift up the fact that Page currently only has 17 young people there, Commissioner Meredith. And I believe Probation shared at our last POC meeting that they are no longer sending young people to Page in an attempt to, I guess, like de facto close it. And with only 17 young people there, and the Probation Oversight Commission's plan to move 20 to 40 young people there, it's not that many young people who are going to be moving to Page. And I imagine that it's not the population that is in the compound units at LP or that are, pre-SYTF, or I'm not sure how they're categorized. So it's also important for the public to know that we're not talking about, the heyday of when hundreds of young people were inside Page, Afflerbach, and Rocky. We're literally talking about potentially 37 young people being at Page, which is well under its rated capacity. So while I understand the concern, I feel like it's important for us to also pay attention to the reality. And I really do want to appreciate the Probation Oversight Commission staff's attempt at creating a plan that actually addresses the crisis that we're dealing with. And I do want to lift up the I guess, I don't know if it's public comment that was shared by community partners, that I think it's also important that we don't conflate depopulation with decarceration, because depopulation is really just playing musical chairs with the lives of young people. Throw a few here, throw a few there, shift them around facilities, call it a day, and now we're like legally compliant. But I don't know that that really means that young people are any safer. And really looking at decarceration and how do we safely ensure that young people are in the community. Because frankly, I think we can all, or most of us, feel that young people would actually be safer in their communities than they would be at LP, because we can actually surround them with services and people who are committed to their well-being and healing. Thank you.
Commissioner Meredith.
First of all, I respect both Commissioner Kakani and Harris and the job they do and what they do. My big issue is that had we had some input, one of my alternatives would be to use Campus Kilpatrick, because that is probably our most underused and our state-of-the-art facility if we want to talk about really doing things to help with these youth. That was one of my concerns, is that we didn't have a chance to have any input before this meeting. But I do understand your points of view, and you are right, 100%. I don't get me wrong on the fact that we have not had the department addressing these issues until we got to this point. My issue is about how it was done without a lot of input from us before this.
But again, I think I'm making it clear. You just had input now, and we
had input before when you put this recorded together.
But now that you do have the input, it is something that we can discuss. So it's not a vacuum. It's basically you have, and every commissioner here has access to the leadership team. Everyone on the agenda, on anything that we're doing or anything that you want to do.
You're presuming that we knew you were doing this. You said,
No,
what were you
no.
doing? I had no idea.
After the order to show cause, several commissioners called me. You were not one of those. That was a monumental moment. And you didn't call me.
No, I did not.
Well, that would have been a good move
Well,
to
you
call
could
me.
have called me too. It's a two-way street, Mr.
Well,
Mondo.
I can only call so many people, but
You
that's
called me, you texted me yesterday. I said I was gonna have breakfast with you.
to talk.
Anyway, move on.
Thank you.
I think we should take the time. I hear you, Commissioner Meredith. Can we take the time to talk practically about some of the ideas you have? Because when you say move, when you say move to Campus Kilpatrick, are you talking about moving boys or talking about moving girls and gender expansive youth? I personally, the facility is not ready to, in my opinion, to host girls and gender expansive youth given the layout right now. So it does nothing to address, there are privacy issues. There are needs that that
I'm
population has.
100% on board with you on that
Okay.
one. That's not my issue.
So you're suggesting
that we can use that to take and depopulate some of the Los Padrinos personnel. What I'm saying is, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. In fact, we talked about our last meeting.
okay. I didn't know if your opinion
No,
had
I'm just
changed.
talking at, if we're looking at overflow, we have to depopulate. To me, having been out to Kilpatrick numerous times, it is probably, I'll say therapeutic just because of the environment around it,
Yeah.
but it's underutilized and it is probably the most state-of-the-art facility we have. If we truly want to work to rehabilitate these youth.
There are a lot of environmental So I think we have to think very specifically about subpopulations when we're considering Kilpatrick, because it's not a matter of just generally saying that that's the best site. Physically, the site cannot accommodate every subgroup of kids in custody. Is that being considered atop of the fact that there's opposition in the surrounding community to bringing youth to Kilpatrick? So the same argument that you're making for your side of town is being made up there.
Yeah,
in some respect.
I would confer with that, but at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I was contacted by the fourth, I think it's the fourth district, whatever district it is, that said that they've worked out with the communities out there that they're more receptive to it. But as we point out, we're in a crisis, so I'm looking at positive alternatives.
Well, Camp Page is a positive alternative, and it's actually closer for families to visit. I worked at Camp Kilpatrick, and it's a trek. And you cannot get there with public transportation. Maybe you can get dropped off at the bottom of the hill, but then you have quite a little hike to go see your child. Commissioner Canales?
It's my understanding in the past, whenever we put forth a motion, then it's open for, motions with suggested edits or amendments. And so, I look for that even in this motion. And Commissioner Meredith, if you have edits or suggestions, for myself, I think that Camp Page should still be utilized, but some of your other suggested edits, I think, to think through how we could incorporate them. I know I would like to make a suggested edit that we evaluate some of the Camp Kilpatrick population for release into some of the programs that are now standing, like we have Ramp LA and then Sam's House, that I've met some of them there at Camp Kilpatrick that are absolutely thriving and succeeding. And I think that they would even do better under the mentorship in some of these homes. And we can begin to decrease right there and then move some of the other youth to Camp Kilpatrick. Although I don't know how to word it in an edit or recommended type motion.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yeah, I just want to point out too that, we are not utilizing some of the resources we should. I'm a big believer in Pine Grove, and I do not know why we're pushing Pine Grove. And I talked with Mr. Butnick about it. I said, Scott, I'll go out there anytime you want to talk to those kids, because I have a family member who's gone through that program and it worked out very well for him. He's now a CAL fire engineer. So I'm a big believer in Pine Grove. I don't know, we're pushing it, but looking at alternatives. One of the weaknesses of Camp Page is the fact that the secure perimeter around it is very weak for contraband being tossed over. It's a very weak, open, porous border around it. But yeah, you're right. Programs we should look at, step down programs. And I got to put Pine Grove out there. You're welcome, Scott, because it is a great program.
It is. I agree with that.
Commissioner Terry? Commissionership.
Yeah, I agree 100% on having some people step down out of Kilpatrick as well as using Pine Grove. Like, I think the board has talked about using Pine Grove a little more, just because the skills that you get there and that you attain. If you can't send a young person home, like if you absolutely can't, send them to Pine Grove and allow them to develop those skills. But also, like, I think also what I believe this recommendation is missing is, and it talks about it a little bit about keeping kids out the system, but like specifically naming diversion, right? Like, I think when we think about DYD's diversion program, like, we've seen that 95% of youth who go in don't re-enter the system. I think we need to put that language in here specifically, so it makes, so when the board or when probation looks at this, they use that exact program and that exact model, because it has been so successful. So if I am offering an edit, I think that we need to put DYD's diversion program in here, just so we can have more youth go in there and slow the influx back in.
I'm glad you brought up DYD commissionership, because actually my preference is that most of these youth return home. And the better job we do at that, the less need we need Camp Page or Camp Kilpatrick for this population. House arrest is not the best alternative for everybody. That's why when we wrote some of the recommendations, we specifically talked about the first option is just home, connected to services, connected to DYD. That requires probation do a better job at intake. I sit in courtrooms. I talk to the attorneys. The reports are inadequate. They don't really follow the letter and the spirit of the Welfare Institution Code. The DA came up at the order to show cause and just threw out 707Bs. They're all 707Bs. Well, if I go into Target and I steal the latest CD and run out and, okay, yeah, not CD. Cassette tape. Reel to reel. But so if I run out and I happen to push the security guard, it's a 211. It's a 707B. If I happen to be in a car where the knucklehead on the driver's side and on the passenger side of the front seat gets out and rips somebody's chain off, I'm in the back seat. I'm arrested with them. I'm a 211. I'm a 707B. All I was doing was getting a ride home from a homie. I was not aware of this, but I'm getting booked on the 211. Now, it doesn't mean the DA is going to charge me, but the process starts. It requires a 48-hour review. And if probation continues to recommend detention, then we continue to have a population problem. They have to do a better job. I've been emphasizing this to the chief since the first day I met him. I've done training of their supervisors, and I still get to see those reports. I talk to the attorneys. One day I invite you, come with me to Court Watch and listen to the system play out. It has little regard for the Welfare Institution Code, which means it has little regard for the youth in front of them. There are two parts of 626, protection of the community and protection of the youth. Everyone emphasizes the community. The community can be protected with well-serviced, well-supervised kids. CDP is not the best alternative, but it is an alternative. Reevaluation of each kid is the main alternative. Hopefully a little later we'll hear from Director Carroll to see what capacity they have in working with probation to identify, reassess, and return kids home. Go in with the plan, reintroduce the detention component of the matter so the judge does not have cause to find that there are no services. That is the most common cause in LA County for a kid being detained. I don't think there's any county that has more invested in diversion than this county. And yet, hearing after hearing, there are two findings that just drive me crazy. One, every effort has been made to return the kid home. No efforts made in the first 48 hours. So I don't even know how the judges in good standing sit there and make that finding. And to say that there are no services that would mitigate threat, they must not live in our county, or they must not watch our meetings, because DYD has been here and has presented the services they have. So before we go on to talking about where we send these kids, I think you're right, Commissioner Kakani. We should depopulate, not reincarcerate and change where we're going. And that's where the discussion should really be, is how many of these kids can actually be at home?
That's a valid argument to have, but that's not the meeting for, but I think we should have.
Well, it's in the recommendations. If you read them, it's the first one.
It's going to be a lengthy discussion.
I want to say that Chair Mundo is absolutely correct. And I want the public to understand I'm a former defender. So I represented kids in Los Angeles courts for 6 years. And probation has two critical decision-making points before the young person ever gets to court, right? They have intake. When the police bring them to the juvenile hall, they are perfectly able on most charges to refuse to book or to put someone on CDP. CDP is the ankle monitor. It should be used, in my opinion, for a very short amount of time to just stabilize. It is not a long-term thing. Young people can't go outside. They can't take the trash out. They can't do a whole number of things that are, it's incarceration, plain and simple. And then, Chair Mundo is totally right. There's a detention report, right? And what happens is probation is writing a very rote report that is going to make a recommendation as to what happens to this young person. They don't know them. They probably call their parents and say, how's he doing at home? And they look at the police report. And that's basically what goes in a detention report in most cases. And so re-looking at what, I've heard from probation in the last couple of meetings that put sort of this passing the buck on, well, we can't do anything because the judges have made the decision. Well, they're making the decision in large part based on the recommendation of the department. And it's, again, coming within a 48-hour time period. And no one knows this kid, including the lawyer, because the lawyer is meeting them because of the way the system's set up. They're meeting them at the arraignment and detention hearing for the first time. So it is completely appropriate to look at every single youth who's in Los Padrinos, every single one, in my opinion. And to think about, who this person actually is. I think one thing that is missing from the POC recommendations that is in the Zero Now and Community Care Network recommendations is sort of the interagency collaboration. I didn't see much about defenders. I saw reliance on DYD in recommendation number 1 from the POC, but I think that the recommendations in number 1 from the community-led alternatives plan, some of that should be imported into the POC recommendations.
Let me just clarify one thing, though, Commissioner Harris. I wish probation would read the police reports, but they don't even make an effort to get those. And that's where you get the circumstances about the kid who's in the back just minding his own business. That's part of the problem with that intake process. Last week at East Lake, on Thursday, there were 10 new intakes that were detention hearings in this one court. 9 out of the 10 were recommendations for detention. The one recommendation for CDP is probably a kid I wouldn't have recommended CDP, but his companions, I would have. That's where it starts. And you're correct in those areas that weren't caught. So hopefully when we redefine the recommendations, we include it. And we include Kilpatrick, as Commissioner Meredith has indicated. Commissioner Kakani.
I don't know if it would be possible to make, oh, shoot, excuse me, an amendment to the depopulation / decarceration probation oversight commission recommendation. And I know that item number 1 does call for a reassessment of around 60 young people around their intake recommendation. Is this not the right time to do an amendment? Oh, okay.
I think the number 60 was what we anticipate would qualify to be either released without anything or detained in the community.
And that's based on
Just looking at the data that we have received from
the snapshot
probation.
data?
Actually not.
Actually, I think it's based on a comment that was made by probation at a probation oversight commission meeting. 60 was the number that was identified as potentially eligible for the community detention program. That was on video in the public meeting.
And just to note, it was when they were sharing with us that they were going to start utilizing CDP. But from, I understand during my field visits, shortly after that, they basically deployed all the CDP officers to training. And I follow the intake data. The number of CDP recommendations has actually decreased rather than increased since then. So
Along those issues, do we have a report on the maybe disproportionate amount of what agencies bring people into intake versus?
I'm just actually, can I just finish my amendment before
Sure.
Mr. Commissioner Meredith jumps in with perhaps his suggestion or request for data? I think that what needs to happen or what should happen if we're talking about the crisis, right? I think there are about 280 young people at LP. A good chunk of whom are, not a good chunk, but a percentage of whom are post-dispo and who can and should be placed immediately. So let's say there's maybe 250 young people who are currently at LP who are pre-dispo. That is not a huge number of young people. And I don't know if this is a recommendation that can be made, but the board went ahead and made an emergency proclamation and gave unprecedented power to the chief, none of which has yielded in anything terribly beneficial to young people. So that feels like a failed attempt at I don't know what. But I wonder if there could be a recommendation for an emergency proclamation that would give essentially the Department of Youth Development access to these young people, or as recommended by the Zero Now group, like creating an interagency team who can actually look at the 250 young people who are currently in and assess who can be safely released. It seems like, if you're looking at 10 cases a day even, you can very quickly shrink that population to figure out what services are in the community for these young people. The judges should be asking for each of their cases on their docket to come back before them every 3 days. What has been learned about this young person, the community they come from, the services that they might have access to, the community-based organizations that are willing to support them. I mean, it's weird to me that judges are not being more active, and given that it is their orders that are resulting also in the detention of young people in illegal facilities. And I guess I'm not sure how to articulate this, but I think that there needs to be a real reassessment of the intake process, as you shared. And I believe that the Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition also presented a letter to the board in December that very clearly outlined which steps around intake need to be revamped and looked at. The comment attached to today's agenda around the interagency team, looking at every young person who is currently, I don't know. So if there's some way to articulate like a reassessment of the intake process and a reassessment of who is currently inside LP, which is what I believe Judge Espinosa ordered at the previous court hearing date, like justify why every young person is detained. And for the DA to just say everyone's a 707B, I think we all know is it's an exaggeration. It's kind of it's an unfair characterization of who's inside LP. So I did not articulate that well at all, but I'm hoping someone else can assist in that who has a little more knowledge of that process.
I think some of what you're saying then is captured in recommendation 1, which is the reassessment, but maybe adding from the Zero Now group, the
I guess it's the
idea
by
of that
whom.
interagency collaboration.
It's the by
team.
whom.
Yeah.
And yes, right. It does say initial detention reports of all currently detained youth. So I appreciate that. But
So
yes,
I would
yeah.
support adding that team.
I second that.
So,
I think actually you have to agree to it.
well, let me just make one comment before. My input with these recommendations purposely avoided putting the public defender's office in and the district attorney. They'll have their say in the courtroom. When you look at because we tried that already. Ms. Haradas was on screen here telling us that they didn't move anything. They couldn't even give us data remember, they couldn't give us data whether or not these kids were on their way out anyways. The other agencies and all the other groups actually will view it with less of a legal eye and not be blocked by that. And as long as we write, as long as probation provides a thoughtful recommendation with support, I think that without those two parties in it, you'll have more recommendations for less restrictive options.
I think you're conflating.
Maybe.
I'm not, so first of all, there's more than the public defenders. There's the alternate public defender, there's the panel, and then there's private representation. There's Loyola Law School's Juvenile Justice Clinic. There are a lot of lawyers out there. So my comment is about defenders in general, any lawyer representing a young person. They are, to take the defender and the DA out of the equation is equating those two groups. No, the defender knows the person that they're representing. They're working on their case. They're meeting with them. They have, depending on, the agency, they have resource attorneys staffed in these offices. They have a completely different relationship, and they also represent the express interest of the young person. That is their job. That is their ethical mandate. And they play a critical role. The district attorney does not represent that young person. They don't know them. They are going to only basically read, a report. I just want to make that there's a real distinction there between those two types of lawyers.
I mentioned both because they were both on that recommendation.
I also hear what you're saying about, probation did a thorough, thoughtful job. But that's not happening. I don't know that it will happen. I don't know that, especially with the current deployment strategy, I don't know what to call it, that it's going to happen in the foreseeable future. And so I think the system has relied on probation in a vacuum for far too long.
Oh, I'm not relying on probation. I believe in the other parties that are listed. Definitely.
Okay. Right. So when we have here in 1A, review the initial detention reports of all currently detained youth, I think there should be an amendment that says, I mean, I don't know if it's like an intake MDT. I don't know what to call it, but it feels like there should be a call for this, for a young person's case and for their circumstances and for their opportunities to be reviewed by a group of people that extends well beyond probation.
Oh, I agree 100%. And that's an amendment that I think that would really enhance it.
Like decentralized systems of care or something like to that
Just
wording to the word.
Identifying the other parties, because I think that's where the strength is.
Right. And I know that Welfare and Institutions Code 827 really kind of restricts who has access to a young person's case file. But if defense counsel were amenable, right? There are a whole host of other people who could look at this case file and actually create something that is responsive to the young person's need, not just a quick check, young person's not going to school, quick check, young person doesn't have an active telephone number, whatever they determine. So I don't know if it's a,
Well, and would that be like participatory defense, which many of these organizations are already doing? So
Right.
a system of participatory
but I think,
defense.
right, but like articulating it in a way as a
Right.
recommendation to the board, right?
Yeah.
Participatory defense oftentimes happens organically, I think, or, when
Right.
the system kind of allows access to organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think calling on the board to really figure out how to expand access to these young people beyond just probation,
Right.
to create a like a
And
reentry and a release plan from go feels really important.
Yeah, and I agree with your amendment. That's why I'm trying to look
Okay.
for wording
Word.
too.
Okay, so should we make that amendment now before public comment?
Yes.
Okay, let's,
Actually, if you don't mind, I have written down in my notes 3 potential amendments, which I think if we if you all accept them before we go to public comment, then you could vote on them after public comment
one time.
rather than going back to public comment a second time. Is that, are
Yes,
you amenable to
sounds
that? So the first one I wrote down was Commissioner Canales recommended to evaluate the Kilpatrick, I think SYTF population for release to step down programs, especially Pine Grove, as an additional recommendation. So I think I'm looking at Jansen. I think the question is to Commissioner Mundo and Terry, whether you accept that as an amendment to the, yes, okay. The second one is, I wrote down this wrong, was Commissioner Ship, which was specifically naming diversion through DYD as a recommendation, which could potentially, well, maybe that's a separate recommendation. Were you thinking of that as a separate recommendation?
Just to clarify, is it before a kid is,
Yeah, so it's before they enter the system.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the diversion program is. It's when they are charged or they do go, instead of them actually entering the system or going to probation, they are diverted to like a community program or something else.
I'm looking at Mr. Carroll. I think we call that pre-booking diversion. Is that the phrase?
which is currently being utilized, right?
He's raising his hand. He knows something.
Let-
Like he knows something.
Well, I did not plan on speaking today, but I am prepared. I think, Tyreek, to your point, Commissioner Ship, to your point, diversion has been really underutilized, honestly, since November. My team has been tracking diversion numbers, and with the passing of Prop 36, the change in district attorney leadership, we're down. In some law enforcement agencies down as much as 70% in certain law enforcement agencies. So I think to uplift the importance of diversion, because what I'm very, very concerned about is that we have the arrests are up, youth arrests are up based on the data that we've been collecting. Diversion numbers are down. So that means that there are going to be more young people going into Los Padrinos in an already confined, packed, unsuitable environment. So it's building on itself. And no matter how much you move around, if you keep pouring water into the cup, eventually the cup is going to overflow, right? So I think if we can uplift diversion using the data, that's available, I think it's really important. It's a shift in the overall landscape in law enforcement right now that's really creating a really challenging future, in my opinion.
So capacity wise, is your organization and its cohorts, are they ready to accept more?
So 2 different spaces, right? So yes is the answer, but we just launched a program called Reentry Activities for Youth. That program is designed for both pre-dispo and post-adjudicated young people returning home. We have 17 different organizations that we are funding. Each young person receives a $200 stipend per month, as well as access right now to about a $5,000 pool of resources they can use for paying for classes, uniforms, tools, emergency rent assistance. It's a pretty flexible pot of money. It just launched about a month or so ago. That 5,000 may decrease as if we put more kids, into the pot. But right now we have 325 slots. I think we've enrolled about 10 kids so far. So we are planning on setting aside at least 100 spots just for young people leaving Los Padrinos. So that's one area we absolutely have capacity. On the diversion side, we have, capacity. And in fact, we are in the midst of a solicitation to add even more diversion providers to the mix.
Commissioner Shipp, just to flesh this out, you're recommending that we emphasize diversion and specifically probation, do a better job of maybe communicating with law enforcement or the POC or the county? How does that look?
So I think for me, and we could try it both ways, right? We could try pre-booking, and also when they do go through the courts, I think maybe that is a conversation we do have with the judges. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I think even if they are charged, but they are able to go back into the community, and the courts may not feel comfortable, but trying to utilize diversion as possible, trying to get them, like you said, back into the community, but through a diversion program. They can go to some program that will give them resources. We'll maybe give them stipends. We'll take them to school. We'll offer a free meal on a daily basis. Just trying to use that as much as possible and uplift that, because I feel like sometimes the courts may not be comfortable with certain things, but knowing that they will get all the help that they can on the way out, I think that is important to uplift. And I think, just like David said, like, diversion is underutilized, and if we can get as many more kids, especially with the population shooting up in Los Padrinos in the last month, I think it's important that we need to include diversion language in this.
Can I say one more thing? And Ms. Harris, Commissioner Harris, you actually had a huge impact several months ago in one of the meetings, and I'm very careful. The reentry program, we really want it to be voluntary as opposed to something ordered by the court, because then my fear is that if a young person doesn't participate, now they've got another violation that could potentially result in their confinement. So I heard you loud and clear when you said that several months ago. I don't know how long ago it was. So we certainly are working right now. Our primary referral source is the defense bar, but we would love to continue to partner with the judicial branch and the DA. And we just don't want it to be ordered, because we worry about what that effect could be on the young person.
So I'm hearing Commissioner Shipp's requested amendment as a statement of support for pre-booking and post-booking diversion in the county to address the increasing population. Is that a fair way of stating that? So I think the question for you two is whether you accept that as an amendment to the recommendations.
Can I just get a clarifying question? I know under the previous DA, there was a real commitment, I believe like an articulated commitment to even post-booking diversion. And when the current DA took office, basically rescinded any and all memorandums issued by the previous DA. So just curious if there is any post-booking diversion even happening, or if that's...
There is.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There is. There was a specific program that was for some of the most the most serious offenses that was eliminated, but there is talk about that program coming back. In fact, they were funded through the JJCC in the most recent budget for that program. So we are in.
When you say they were funded, they being
the DA.
The DA.
Yeah,
okay.
was funded to continue the READY program, which is this specific program. We are still receiving DA referrals, although those numbers are significantly down. So we are in the process, we meaning DYD, is in the process of conversations with folks both from the juvenile section of the district attorney's office and working with the DA himself to try to uplift the importance of diversion, show that it works, make some corrections along the way, because it's not a perfect system. Our enrollment numbers could certainly be better. But we think on the front end, if the DA and law enforcement does a really good job of giving us the right information for the young people, making sure the young people know that when we call, that we're not a scam. Because we've had young people that think, you know, when we call in, like, who is this saying they can get me out of jail? We don't even know who you are, and they don't enroll. So there's a lot of room for improvement. So I'm not trying to say it's perfect, but yeah, there are still referrals coming, but they need to increase. Thanks.
Okay, and then the third amendment, which I'm not sure whether we attribute this to Commissioner Kakani or Harris, since you both sort of made the amendment, is to incorporate elements of number one, the interagency collaboration for rapid release planning on the public comment into the POC's number one, which is to reassess and return all currently detained youth to court, addressing the whom and suggesting that the parties, including judges, DYD, community care teams, advocates, credible messengers are included in the assessment of that release. Did I phrase that correctly?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to the two of you? Okay. And then I think Commissioner Jackson was hoping to speak.
Yeah, I potentially have an addition for item 1C. I had an unplanned meeting with the chief last week, and he was emphatic about transferring youth to other facilities. So it felt very clear to me that he is not sort of interpreting the need to depopulate as decarcerating and truly reducing numbers in a way that alleviates the staffing crisis. And that concerns me because I believe that it inevitably creates staffing issues potentially at other facilities. And so we know that field officers are being deployed, and that's going to continue to happen. And so as we're starting to think about the intensive service components out in the community, I just wanted to add language that addresses staffing and the need to have staff available to be able to render important services to their caseloads. And so am I able to just sort of say what the amendment is to add to 1C? Or okay. So at the end, I just wanted to say, to ensure the successful implementation of intensive service components, it is critical that probation officers and CDP staff are supported with adequate staffing levels and resources. The plan should embody a strategic approach that balances facility deployment with community-based support that provides quality supervision, mitigates risks, and uphold the plan's goals. Does that feel helpful? Like it's like, does the language feel helpful? Okay, I would like to add that.
Better than I could have done.
Okay.
Can you do me a big favor and send that, please? We have it on video, but it would be helpful to have the exact written.
Commissioner Meredith?
I had a question for Mr. Carroll.
Can you talk into the mic? Sorry, I know.
You were saying that law enforcement is not utilizing DYD. They've decreased using it.
Diversion in general,
Yeah.
our diversion numbers are down.
Okay,
Since
because
November.
if we need to do an outreach there, I'll be more than happy to assist you with that. In exchange for my fire program we've talked about.
I know, at Page, right? Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Public deals here.
Okay, all dealings done. Any other amendments? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to public comment.
Okay, thank you. As has been mentioned already, we have some written public comment that is already attached to the agenda. If you wish to share more written public comment, if you do that by 5 p.m. today, we will attach it to the agenda and send it out to all the commissioners. We'll begin with public comment in the room. We'll give you 2 minutes each, and you can we can do this in whatever way you want to do it. I don't want you to have to stand up here in line. So you can just start to get up as the 2 minutes seem to draw to a close, and we will make it work. So when you hear the beep, please stop speaking.
Hi, it's David, Director of DYD. This is not going to take 2 minutes. The one thing we didn't talk about, DYD was charged with and working in conjunction with the PLC in doing community listening sessions. So those sessions are under the planning stage right now. That was for the original global/facilities plan. So I think there's 2 that are scheduled. We're going to do 5, and 1 in each supervisorial district. I don't know how the timing of the order is going to affect what comes out of those listening sessions, because the order is so expedited, and the listening sessions were going to take place over the course of May. But I did want to let everyone know that the listening sessions are moving forward. My team is planning them as of what I've heard last. 2 are already scheduled for May. So thank you.
Thank you. And you're right. The POC will also be sharing all of that information through our website, but I would encourage everybody to sign up for DYD's alerts as well. Go ahead, Mr. Pettis.
Okay, on the issue of the Girls to Campus Kilpatrick, probation spent $48 million to create it. And Campus Kilpatrick is not approved for juvenile hall, so we can't even consider some of the things. It's not even approved for a juvenile hall. Recommendation, it's working, leave it alone. Camp Page, recommendation, it's working, leave it alone. Los Padrinos, why would we consider 2 juvenile halls when we can't operate Los Padrinos? For the last 2 years, we focused on the 250 minors that we have in Los Padrinos, but we haven't talked about over the 2,000 probationers that we supervise in the community. A lot of people don't know what a deputy probation officer 2 does. For a court report, a client is over detained because the judge can't make a ruling because he doesn't have the probation report because those officers are in either at home or at Los Padrinos. Violation report, client can't be held accountable because the DPO2 field is at home. Some of the services that we provide is housing, medical, psychiatric care, employment, guns and drugs off the street. Fentanyl is twice as powerful as heroin. If an officer goes there just to arrest and put handcuffs on this guy, a lot of them has been sent to the hospital. AB 109 is a Public Safety Alignment Act. Public safety is at risk when 600 officers are at home. Probationers are not being supervised. Probation officers are dedicated, knowledgeable, and valuable. We know our clients. We know what works. Recommendation, bring Deputy Probation Officer 2s back to their offices forthwith. These officers know how to keep our community safe.
Mr. Pettis. Anybody else in the room wish to make comment? Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. My name is Tom Moore, Assistant Public Defender with LA County. First of all, I want to say thank you for hosting and convening this special meeting that came about because of an emergency order, an order by Judge Espinoza intervening in the state of affairs at Los Padrinos. I really appreciate the passion that you're speaking about the issues that our youth are facing in a facility that puts them at risk of violence and in danger of neglect and other dangerous circumstances there. I also appreciate the client-centered approach. Public defenders provide a client-based and a client-centered level of advocacy for the children we represent. And I want to say that, especially with release plans, we need input from public defenders and other defenders because of the attorney-client privilege that creates the ultimate safe space to talk about what the actual needs of a child are. So without that input, you don't really create a valid and successful reentry plan. So we really want to just say thank you for this. We're going to continue to litigate these issues in court, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kaylee Matthews. I am 20 years old. I am a system impacted young person. I'm a fellow with the Young Women Freedom Center and also a participant with Beloved. I'll just get straight to the point. As a young person who does a lot of movement building and advocacy work, it sucks to say someone who is now 21 years old, who has been navigating the system for some time, who is easily traumatized and triggered, it takes a lot of confidence and energy to come up here and advocate not only for myself, but also for incarcerated youth and decarceration of youth. Change is possible, but not with so little opportunity. A lot of people who don't know, youth are challenged mentally inside and often have to deal with having to live a life with so much baggage just to survive. It takes a lot of village to do this work. How many years is it going to take for us to keep showing the receipts that Los Padrinos needs to be closed down? As a department that caused the crisis should not be allowed to dictate or to decide how to fix anything. A department who is at the center of $1 billion sexual abuse lawsuit, this is a moment for courage and change. LA County LA County can lead the nation again by ending incarceration for girls and gender expensive youth and investing in Care First future. The community has the solution and the time is now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Deanna Pittman. I'm here with the Young Women's Freedom Center. And honestly, I want to thank not all of y'all, but most of y'all, because I feel like this is really the only body in all of LA County that is like seriously considering how detrimental this global plan can be for our youth. We, in no good conscience, can allow probation to keep deciding on the fate of LA's most vulnerable youth. The POC, DYD, CBOs, and the voices of directly impacted youth should be integral to any decision making that's going to impact how or where they should be moved. I really want to focus on two things. So I want to talk about the work that the community has been doing to create the alternatives, and I want to talk about what I think should be happening in the next few months. In 2023, Young Women's Freedom Center launched Beloved Village. This is a pilot project that is bold and innovative in its approach to creating a tangible alternative to youth incarceration. Beloved centers youth by directly investing into them and their families with individualized support. And this can look like groceries, paying for rent, or even connecting families to healing practitioners. We have some beloved participants here today who are going to share a little bit more about, how this program has transformed their lives. But, this is a real alternative that has been doing the work, and we should be investing in it. And today, the Zero Now and Community Care Team Network, which Beloved and Young Women's Freedom Center are a part of, are leading the charge in releasing a collaborative rapid release and reduction strategy that is rooted in real solutions for girls and gender-expansive youth. This is a concrete community-led plan that aligns with the recommendations that this body is making.
I'm so sorry to have to cut you off. It looks like you have it in writing. Can you send it
Yes.
to us, please?
Yeah.
info@poc.lacounty.gov.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry. Hello, my name is Trinity Rutherford. I am a fellow at the Young Women's Freedom Center. I want to share that since coming home, I have been able to see the impact that our work has done for our youth and also me. We take dedication and time to commit to our youth to become better and to let them know about the importance in our community organizations and resources we have that can help them thrive for a better future. From my past incarceration, Young Women's Freedom Center has helped me elevate and grow in the most best and positive ways. I haven't been back to jail or in the system since upon my release. I just wish we can make real change starting with our youth that's still incarcerated and stop making false promises to the children in jail. We don't need more cages, we need care. LA's probation plan to move youth to another rundown facility is not a solution. It's more of the same abusive warehousing with $4 billion in settlement funds and decades of harm. It is unthinkable to expand further detention centers instead of investing in healing housing and community-based support. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Trinity. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. My name is Ebony Ellis, and I am the parent navigator at Beloved Village, a community-based funded pilot initiative that delivers real, actionable solutions to the very challenges you've acknowledged in youth incarceration. We provide the same financial support, mentorship, and guidance that higher income families rely on to keep their children safe and out the system. Resources every family deserves. As we move into a more informed and enlightened era, we call on you, our leaders in power, to lead from a place grounded in evidence and humanity. The data is clear: incarceration is not rehabilitative. It is harmful, traumatic, and delivers of continuous cycles of harm within our communities. We are urging you to listen to the voices of the people you represent. Keep our children close to home, surround them by families and communities who know how to care for them best. These are our children, and we have both the will and the resources to support them, something the system has continually failed to do. Reject probation's global plan. Begin releasing youth now through the existing rapid response team and the Zero Now initiative. Invest in our community-rooted organizations that knows what works. All eyes are on Los Angeles. Let's make a statement. Let's not just make a statement. Let's make history. Thank you.
Ms. Ellis, did you say parent navigator?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please, Janae, are you back there? Would you please give your contact information to Janae? I would like
Yes.
to learn more about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, you guys. My name is Demaria. I'm 19 years old. I'm a youth advocate at Young Women's Freedom Center. I want to let you know that probation cannot keep deciding the fate of our children. The department that caused this crisis should not be allowed to decide how to fix it. Oversight must include the Department of Youth Development and credible community organizations that include the voices of youth and families with lived experience. Sentencing is supposed to be about rejuvenation. As a child, we're taught you do something bad, you go on timeout. We're forgetting the sole purpose of juvenile detention. These are trauma-bound children forced into survival mode who've never had a chance at true happiness. It's sick the things that happen to these kids. You can't be a good person, a God-driven person, or a morally profound person knowing you have the authority to make a change, but you don't do it. Real alternatives to incarceration are already happening. YWFC, Beloved, YJC, and Hoops for Justice have a concrete plan to heal and support youth in a short and long term.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
My name is Toda Shakur with the Youth Justice Coalition. I'm here today because I believe in people. I believe in second chances, and I believe that no young person should ever be caged. Let's be clear, depopulation is not decarceration. Moving youth from lockups into probation or surveillance isn't freedom. It's just another form of control. The global plan doesn't offer care, it just shifts to cages. Probation and other so-called alternatives have harmed young people for decades. They don't heal, they hurt. Our youth are suffering physically, emotionally, and spiritually in systems that were never designed to support them. If any one of us were accused of harming kids the way probation have, we would all be arrested. So why is the system allowed to keep doing it? We don't need more cages, we need more care. And care already exists in our communities. Community-based organizations are already doing the work, supporting youth, building trust, and creating safety and offering real second chances. If the plan isn't rooted in freedom, healing, and justice, it's not a solution. It's not a solution. It's just more harm. The only real alternative is release. The only real care is in community. And the only real justice is freedom. Thank you. I also want to say we are approaching the 2 years since Brian Diaz has died in the care and in the care, no, truly the neglect of probation. Freeing young people is a matter of life and death, figuratively and literally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Emily. I'm a youth organizer with Young Women's Freedom Center and also participant with Beloved Village. I am 24 years old, so I'm impacted. And I just wanted you guys to just put money into communities, housing, healthcare. It's heartbreaking to have kids in cages, you know? You need to put care first, not put them in cages. It sucks that we live here and they're not free. They're not in school. It's heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning,
Frank
Frank.
Paredes, Professional Managers Association President. We had also submitted a proposal most recently. We worked a lot of hours with regards, and it was labeled Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall Reimagined. It was denied. I will say that reimagining justice means trusting both data and humanity. Probation, labor still has humanity. Probation's expertise in risk assessment is critical here. And we urge POC to formalize a joint task force with probation. We're offering our ability to collaborate with you. Great thoughts and great concepts as it relates to how law enforcement brings a kid in, what they do. That's a different policy change. For LA, we could have restorative justice circles, practices that reduce detention while honoring victim offenders, while also honoring victims. There's no intake and detention control for victims when they are affected in real time during the first 48 hours. Let's pilot maybe a youth-led advisory council to co-design detention alternatives, ensuring probation's role evolves from jailer to navigator. This is how we break cycles, not by closing facilities, but by opening futures.
Thank you, Frank.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Brooklyn. I'm with the Young Women's Freedom Center. I'm here today to speak on behalf of youth, families, and communities most impacted by this system. We've seen firsthand the difference of how probation has had decades to address many issues and have failed us many times over and over again. I come up here speaking over and over again, and I just feel like it's a repeated cycle of me talking and talking and talking. Yet today, we've been asked to accept a plan that does just that, ignore the youth, their voices, and their needs. The proposal to move them to yet another carceral facility is not a solution. Too many plans and not enough actions. I just keep hearing plans and plans and plans. Where's the solution in the plans? If you're not truly committed to justice, the solution is clear. We'll begin releasing the youth now. Start with girls and gender expansive youth, conduct immediate case reviews, develop individualized release plans, and our community has the answers in place. We simply need the county to just give us the place in action to put this in reality for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, POC. My name is Araya Blakely. I'm the program manager of in-detention programs at Young Women's Freedom Center, Los Angeles. For folks who don't know me, I helped pilot the Credible Messenger program for girls and trans youth in Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, and I was working regularly in Los Padrinos up to 4 times a week from November 2023 to October 2024. Young Women's Freedom Center has been calling for decarceration as the solution for 31 years in counties across California. In 2019, we established our LA site. In November 2023, we finally gained consistent access to 50% of the girls, gender expansive youth, and trans youth of all genders who are incarcerated in LA County. We are here to affirm our agreement with the POC, DOJ, BSCC, and the court about decarceration as an immediate, urgent priority. We urge probation, the court, DYD, and community-based organizations to convene immediately to decarcerate 10 girls and trans youth today. We are here to oppose the Global Plan's proposal to move girls and gender expansive youth to Camp Kilpatrick. Instead, we ask that when decarceration is not yet an immediate option for an incarcerated young person, those girls and trans youth are moved to Dorothy Kirby instead. The system's failure is resulting in real harm. Kids are dying. Kids are separated from their families and their communities. Kids' likelihood to succeed dwindles as they sit in systems that continue to harm them. Please get it right this time. Our community's future depends on your actions now.
Thank you. Hi, Helen.
Hi, good morning, Helen Eichenberg. I'm just a community member in Los Angeles County. I live in SD3. And I just want to thank all of you for the urgency of this meeting and putting together all these suggestions. If our elected officials operated like this, our county would look different and our city would look different and our youth would be well taken care of. So I commend you for the urgency and everything was stopped. I support all your solutions and the amendments today. We need to take care of these kids. We need to decarcerate. The time is here. I'm still whirling from the fact that 2 Tuesdays ago at the Board of Supervisors, we were to talk about Los Padrinos and the global plan, and Supervisor Barger punted it to May 20th. Where is the urgency? So thank you for your urgency. If DYD, I know there's been talk, I reject the global plan. We need to do everything so that we are working. If probation needs to be there, I get it, but we need to support DYD as best we can. Mr. Carroll, if you need us to go to the Board of Supervisors and get you all the support that you need, we'll do it. I mean, we need whatever we can. And decarcerating, we need pressure on the Board of Supervisors. It is time for all 5 of them unanimously to step up and make this better. You know, in hindsight, looking at this, we knew when we reopened Los Padrinos, it wasn't a good thing. And look at where we are now. So we cannot, you brought it up, Commissioner Canales, we can't redo what happened last time and traumatize these kids. We need to decarcerate and put them front and center and do what is best for them. Thank you for time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Oh, so that
Good morning. Hello, my name is Jeffrey Hines. I am the Youth Development Coordinator at Youth Justice Coalition. I've been working in the field of youth development and youth advocacy for over 8 years now, and I feel like I have a great lens on what it looks like to actually help youth. I want to quote the LA Times that Los Angeles County has tentatively reached a $4 billion agreement to settle more than 6,800 childhood sexual abuse claims dating back to 1959. My uncles, my grandfather were in jail and during those times. They could have been some of those people. If you have $4 billion to settle cases, then why aren't we using that money to invest in the thing that's already been said that we were going to invest in? Instead of incarceration, we should do like we do at Youth Justice Coalition, and that is to use transformative justice. What is the cause of these youth to be like this? Imagine you grow up in a community that has no resources, no opportunities for you, and nobody in this city wants to invest into any jobs, any opportunities, or training for you. What would you do? You would go and you would make opportunities for yourself. But rather than meeting the youth where they're at, giving them the proper resources that they need, we rather incarcerate them and allow the probation department to continue to be funded rather than funding the youth so that we can have the next generation of leaders and people to push our city to the next level. I've seen that youth that people count out constantly. I'll send it in.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Mr. Bell doesn't trust my timer.
Okay. Thomas Bell, Local 685, represent the camps. First and foremost, Mr. Marinoff, I understand what you're saying with the city of Vernon. I'm a political science major, so when politicians hear something from the community, they want to react. But one thing I know about politicians, they don't say nothing when things work. The officers at Camp Page, they're ready for anything. Disposition or, whatever terms we use, whatever kids you bring up there, those officers are ready for it. The escapes and the drugs and stuff, we're prepared for that. That gate's been there for years. That little fire station area, well, I know that's what you're talking about. It's been there for years. But we're prepared for that. So keeping Camp Page open, I think I think we all agree it's beneficial. It's going to help LP get lowered. It's going to keep these guys in camp where they belong and where they want to be. As far as the changes made to the global plan, I would ask the commission if they would honestly go after putting victim advocates on as part of the advisory board. We got a lot of CBOs, we got probation unions, we got you guys. We don't have no victim advocates. I remember before I was even part of the union, I was trying to look them up. They're hard to get a hold of because if they show up, they're not here for anything other than to share their story. And some people don't want to relive it. But you guys, I would ask, honestly, go after getting some of these victims. If I hear a mother come up here and tell me what happened to their son, and they wholeheartedly say, hey, I forgive them, we need to do this and that touches me more than honestly some of the other stories. Because, not to say that meanly, but, and this is why I kept time. But yeah, just go after getting victims as well involved in this plan, because there's all type of people that need to be involved.
Thank you.
Good day. My name is Sir James Bailey. Thank you, Probation Oversight Committee, for the work you've been doing. Thank you for the recommendations. We are here. Tyreek, the commissionership. Thank you for the recommendation, brother. We are here. Freedom. Freedom. The moment of silence for Pope Francis. And then we got to build more cups. And then we got to build more cups. I think you see, no more building these cups. Let's pass these recommendations that came in. Depopulation only works if it's decarceration. Diversion at the front, diversion in the middle, diversion at the back, decarcerate. Psalms 94:15. Justice shall return into righteousness, and the upright will follow it. There's a lot going on in the world. Today is Mumia Abu Jamal's 71st birthday. Leonard Peltier is free. Next Thursday, I'll see y'all. All of us, every union, workers of the world, freedom, liberation is working. It's working. Keep praying, keep loving, keep serving as you do. Freedom. Home. Home. I live in the 5th district. And I just had a chance to see one of the, home. Altadena, Pasadena, Palestine, Haiti.
Thank you, sir. It's always nice to see you in person. I'm sorry for my low-tech solution to the not having a timer. We are, in fact, working on this. We do a great job of our virtual meetings, and putting the timer on the screen throws a huge wrench in it. So I apologize for that. What we're going to do is get like a little electronic timer so that you all can see your time. But in the meantime, I will hold up a note to show you that your time is wrapping up. Welcome, Olivia.
Thanks, Wendy. Good morning, Olivia Shields with the Urban Peace Institute and LA Youth Uprising Coalition. First and foremost, I want to emphasize the importance of not conflating Probation's Global Facilities Plan and the immediate crisis in Los Padrinos. The global plan is a long-term plan. It's vague at best in terms of implementation and its budget, and its feasibility is largely disputed by advocates, young people, program providers, families, and probation union alike. In particular, the movement of girls to Camp Kilpatrick and keeping more boys at Barry J is absolutely unacceptable and harmful for a myriad of reasons, many of which have been discussed within the POC already and shared by the amazing folks who spoke before me. The CBOs working inside these facilities have a unique insight and relationship with these young people from being inside the facilities consistently. I can say this from firsthand experience working closely with Hoops for Justice. It is important to ensure their voices are included not only once the global plan is formalized, but in the drafting process of this plan, as their work is rooted in restorative practices and they understand how variables such as environment and proximity to families impacts the rehabilitative process. In this moment, in this urgent and dangerous moment, the focus must be on the safety and well-being of young people. The issue is probation's treatment of predisposition youth, which has included things like excessive room confinement, isolation, and physical abuse. This is evident in the previous unsuitability findings for Central and Barry J, which is why LP reopened in the first place. It's evident in the 10 overdoses that happened one day after the most recent unsuitability finding at Los Padrinos, a moment which was terrifying for me as someone who has built relationships with these young people inside the facility over the past year, which I'm sure is only a fraction of what families and loved ones felt hearing this news. Their priority must be to safely and effectively release as many young people as possible to the communities and the organizations, many of whom are here today, who know how to support and understand them and have robust networks of care to meet their needs. Lastly, I appreciate the opportunity to contribute to our thoughts to the Probation Oversight Commission's depopulation plan, which I support. Anything that probation comes up with, anything regarding depopulation and decarceration must involve robust stakeholder involvement to ensure the plan truly has young people's best interests in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Kruti.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Kruti Parekh, she, her, hers. I'm with the Youth Justice Coalition Returning Home Reentry and a part of the Zero Now work group that is looking forward to working with you. Just want to really thank you for this emergency meeting. I'd like to suggest that you have this emergency meeting every week until we have this solved. DYD, I suggest that you have an emergency meeting every week for 2 hours until this is solved. Probation, I inspire you, encourage you, please have a 2-hour meeting every week until this is solved. I know that the Zero Now work group is committed to work every day to convene people until this is solved, period. I've never worked inside of juvenile hall until 2 years ago. Over the course of the last 2 years, every young person that I meet, I work with them to create a support pod. And if you look at this support pod, some young people have 0 bodies around them. They have no trusted adult that they feel protected by, that will support them and that will hold them accountable. When that happens, our team just wraps around them until we can learn them enough to figure out who are the people that they support and they feel protected by. And also want to encourage us to remember that those that support us and protect us will hold us accountable the best. And the organizations that I have found again and again that have done this well is Hoops for Justice, AHJN Networks, Returning Home Reentry, Layup Youth Justice Ecosystem, Youth Justice Coalition, Young Women's Freedom Center, Beloved, and members of DYD. I also have noticed that probation officers, some of them that young people trust, should be a part of their pod. Thank you so much. And again, available for you 24/7 to figure this out.
Thanks, Kruti. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Andrew Mandujano with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Just sitting in this meeting today was just kind of a lot of information, a lot of recommendations. Being someone who was formerly incarcerated at the age of 16 to the age of 22, I was incarcerated in DJJ. When I came home, I got into the work of advocating for youth. I was also the residential manager of Los Angeles Room and Board. And I think just it's all on the youth as well. Like they have to want it. They have to want change. The resources are there when they come home. They have to benefit from that. And just seeing the behaviors of some of the youth when they come home, not showing any remorse for the victims, walking around with attitudes, and trying to assist that, this work is very, very hard. I think we need to rely on probation, credible messengers, people who have these personal relationships with these individuals, these young guys inside, who could help us determine if they're ready to come home, if they're going to be a successful transition into the community, if they aren't any harm in the community. A lot of us are advocating for them to come home quick, to step down quick, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we're all here to support them. But I think that the personal relationships that probation and credible messengers have can play a big role in those step downs. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. We have one more. Oh, hi, Jacob. You were hiding behind the column. Welcome.
How y'all doing? How y'all doing? It's still morning time, so good morning. My name is Jacob Jackson. I'm with the Youth Justice Coalition, and YJ seeks to fully fund and continuously invest in youth justice reimagined. This is my redemption story, a second chance. There was a time in my life when I lived solely for myself, chasing temporary pleasures, constantly living on the edge, and falling short of God's glory. I made mistakes after mistake, and with no end goal in sight. My thoughts, behaviors, and actions became self-destructive, and I was blind to my own sin. Deep in iniquity, lost in a world that promised fulfillment but delivered emptiness. I tried to plan out my future on my own terms, but every plan failed. I was in a constant battle with myself, an eternal conflict that never let up. Even the good I did, like helping others, only brought me a fleeting sense of confidence. It gave me the illusion that maybe I was a good person, but my past choices suffocated me. Depression took hold of me, and every thought became darker than the last. I reached a point where I believed it would be better to die than to keep suffering. I was in crisis, struggling with my identity, but no one noticed. I tried everything the world told me to do, self-help, distractions, even numbing the pain, but I kept falling short. Then on my weakest, broken, vulnerable, and ready to give up, God stepped in. And that moment, he rescued me. He delivered me from the shackle of sin and brought light into my darkness, a light that can never be dim. He forgave me for all my trespasses, embraced me with his unfailing love, faithfulness, compassion, grace, and mercy. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for him. All glory belongs to the Father in heaven, Jesus Christ, and Holy Spirit, the one true living God. Thank you for allowing me to get on this mic this morning.
Thank you, Jacob. Hi, Lena.
Hi. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Lena Mallet with the Children's Defense Fund and Layup. And first, want to make clear that the immediate crisis at LP will not be solved through the propositions laid out in the facilities plan or even through Judge Espinosa's call for depopulation. Depopulation is not the same thing as decarceration, and it is not a surprise to me that probation is using this opportunity to justify the implementation of their facilities plan at an accelerated rate. What was ordered on Friday was really the continued shuffling, the continued interfacility musical chairs with young people's lives. Espinosa's quote, remedy is catered towards legal regulation compliance, not the safety, not the well-being of young people. His directive should have included recommendations to release and serve young folks in the community, and that his colleagues cease to order the detention of youth at a facility that is operating illegally. The core of the crisis is not about the physical facility itself. The problem is with the county's antiquated approach to pre-adjudicated youth, evidenced by the repeated unsuitability findings of Central Juvenile Hall and Barry J. Nydorf before Los Padrinos even reopened. Probation relies on violent carceral facilities run by an institution with a rap sheet longer than any young person inside. A culture that relies on OC spray, room confinement, physical abuse, isolation, intimidation, and deprivation will never render the kind of healing young people need and deserve. When we focus on decarceration, which looks like the safe release of young people into their communities, with support coming from people and organizations who know and understand them and have the ability to meet their immediate needs, we create pathways for healthier, safer communities. There's nobody doing this better, nobody doing this with more thought, more love, more heart, or expertise than the folks from the Zero Now Collective who have all spoken before me. Even the BSCC has indicated that reducing the population is a key factor in reaching compliance with Title 15. Note that they did not lift up the department's facilities plan because even the state recognizes that it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. Out of fear of falling in, I support your recommendations. Thank you.
We're going to go to the virtual public comment, and I'm actually going to read the names of those who will be giving virtual public comment and the list there. So you have about like 10 seconds to raise your hand if you want to be included in that list. Do it really fast. Those who will be speaking are Mary Meredith, Ava Lay, Zoe Rawson, Lupe Ross, and Paloma Serna. So we got anybody else? Okay. All right, so we're going to end public comment at the end of those, and we'll start with Mary Meredith.
Morning. Thank you guys for convening this meeting today. We've heard a lot of comments about what could happen, what should happen. I know that probation has profited from the incarceration of young people for decades, but the thing that I'm hearing is that it sounds like the young people are not being thought of as people who are going to grow older. They are going to get older and continue to participate in our society. And the trauma that they're experiencing right now in juvenile is not showing that they're going to be received well or even be able to come home and comfortably accommodate to being members of the community. There are community organizations, there are community participatory research organizations. So there are a lot of community members who want the youth to come home. We're considering moving them to facilities that the communities are saying, hey, we don't want those people here. And then their home community is saying, please bring them back. And for some reason, we're not able to organize a way to do both of those things successfully. A lot of these youth are coming from communities that are run down, abandoned. They have no housing or inadequate housing. And we're assuming that that's not a trauma response for them being in trouble. I know not everyone is a simple case, but there are a lot of community members who are willing to support them. So I would like to amend this this proposal to include the requirement, the mandate to be organized along with a community organization. Some of them have been operating for more than 20 years. So to mandate that they are included in the conversation or included in the depopulation and actually be able to assist with the youth that they want to be in their communities, since the other communities in Laverne are against having them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and don't panic. We had 2 pages of comments and only saw 1. So we have another list of people who will be speaking. Can you send me that so we can read that list right now? We have Lindsay and Jessica Nolan, Victoria Gomez, CA. Your hands are not up, so those are folks who have sent messages in the chat. You need to click the raise your hand function for us to be able to call on you, and we'll get started. So those names will be able to speak, but we are running out of time here, and we need to allow the commissioners to take a vote. We'll go with Aba Lay.
My name is Aba Laye. I've been working with probation youth for over 15 years. I'm the executive director of Whole Systems Learning. We serve 170 male youth that are gang involved or on probation. We provide intensive case management. We work with parents. We work with probation officers. Our kids get off of probation. They complete high school, they improve their grades, and they go to college. We are family. We provide them not only with intensive case management, but also with mental health services that include emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, hip hop heals, which is a trauma therapy, increasing protective factors, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and career development. Our program is an example of what can be done in the community with these youth. These are our target youth. We have a 24/7 youth center. We have all of the people that work with them are peers, people that are formerly incarcerated that are just like them. But what I wanted to, I also wanted to say, we reject the global plan. It goes from bad to worse. But what I really wanted to talk about was DYD. DYD has 4 levels of diversion: infractions, misdemeanor.
Aba, we lost you. Okay, we're going to go to the next speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and read the names on this list. And this is going to be, I know I've said this 3 times now, but I'm actually looking around at the commissioners to make sure you're all able to stay for a few more minutes. Anyone? Okay, great. Okay, so we have Donald Fields, Esther Yim, Jessica Nolan, Lindsay, Lupe Ross, Paloma Serna, Cia Romero, Tali, Tanya Ibanez, Tori Gomez, Zoe Ross, A. Pozos, and Amy. And that will, the only one I don't see on there is Victoria Gomez. So Victoria, if you can raise your hand, you will also be allowed to speak. And with that, we will end the queue. Okay, Donald Fields, you're up next. Donald Fields.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you can begin.
Can you hear me okay? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
we can. You can begin.
All right. Couple of concerns. I'm been involved in criminal defense from the investigative side for a little over 35 years in California. Couple comments that were made I just wanted to address. Someone said depopulation will ultimately result in decarceration. And it's naive to suggest that there's not an overlap because there is. But the focal point here is this particular youth facility. And so we've got to understand that if you depopulate, you are going to decarcerate. This was one of the big deals in one of our local elections. For the DA, because one was mandated to depopulate, and because he depopulated, he was criticized, scrutinized, and ultimately, but that's a whole nother subject. But it's naive to think that one doesn't impact the other. To suggest that there are not many 707B youth detentions which don't meet the criteria is a little bit disingenuous. And also to suggest that judges conduct 3-day follow-ups, that's not really tenable either. And it's a bit unreasonable given the court calendars and the caseloads that we're now dealing with. So there are a lot of things to consider. But if you're going to shift youth from one facility to several others, you are going to have a reincarnation or a reiteration of the same things that are going on right now, which is leading to the shutdown of one particular facility. And so we've got to be wide-eyed. We can't be naive in our approach. Every youth offender is not going to be released back into the public, but we have to be able to deal with them in an effective manner, and we've got to be right.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you, Mr. Fields. Esther Yim. Esther, you can unmute yourself and begin.
Hello, thank you. My name is Esther, and I'm from Mentor for Change. We are currently providing a career-based mentorship to youth at Los Padrinos, and our mentorship is very much relationship rooted. We agree with the other CBOs and community members who provided public comments today that we need youth-centered care, not cages. Of course, decarceration and diversion are the goals that we need to move towards. At the same time, while there are youth still at LP, we need to prioritize CBOs that are providing that community of care for young people and recognizing their individual and collective humanity. Through the relationships that we've been building with the youth who are in the secure youth treatment facility, we have seen that our youth are experiencing positive community, they're experiencing self-love, and these are things that are critical to their hope, their healing, and their self-efficacy to achieve the goals that they have and reach developmental milestones, even while they are there for graduation, for college, for workforce readiness. And these are things that will help them for successful reentry. And we know that every single one of these CBOs that have spoken today, we honor them. And we want to recognize that this is a collective effort, and we want to ask the POC and probation and DYD to really invest in those organizations that are doing the work of being in relationship with young people where they are at, so we can help them move towards a healthy autonomy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll go next to Jessica Nolan. Jessica, you can unmute yourself and begin.
My name is Jessica Nolan. I'm president of Reimagine Freedom, which also oversees Young Women's Freedom Center and Beloved Village. I've been in this work for over 30 years and was formerly a young person who was in care and abused and neglected while inside the system rather than given the support me and my family needed. Thank you for hosting this meeting today, and I just want to push all of us to imagine even more. We started Beloved Village because we know we needed a viable alternative to incarceration, specifically for girls and gender-expansive youth. This is also a political play right now, the global plan. Most of the girls, if not all of them, could be released today safely into the community. Beloved Village is poised and ready to accept them. We are funded by the county, we are funded by the state and private philanthropy. We are ready to partner with probation, with DYD, with the public defender's office, with everyone to create individualized and customized plans in the community where they can succeed. Probation is facing LA County is facing the biggest settlement for sexual abuse over 40 years in the county. The state has intervened to close down these horrific institutions. We have to be bold in this moment with the understanding that our youth and our communities deserve better. I would propose that we amend the recommendations even further to name Beloved, to name the Zero Now Working Group, and to figure out how we get everyone at the table to individually get each of these young people out. Thank you for your time today. And I also echo the sentiment that we need to keep meeting until we can push even further and until we have a real viable community-based solution. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Next, we'll go to Lindsay. Lindsay, you can unmute yourself and begin.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Eichenberger, and I'm the Director of Youth and Community Justice at the Arts for Healing and Justice Network. I'm joining in the call to put a stop to this global plan, and also in the call to not assume that the order to depopulate LP will result in the decarceration that community has been advocating for. We are already witnessing the ways that probation is interpreting this ruling in their favor. In their own words, probation has stated that this ruling supports what they call a measured approach, which means one that avoids the release of youth, in their own statement. To them, a measured approach means keeping young people caged in a facility where they are seeing 8 of their peers ODing in a single day. Probation continues to show that they are not interested in community input, that their judgment cannot be trusted, and that they are beyond incapable of taking care of young people. The probation chief has proven himself to be unsuitable to draft and lead a plan of any kind. We know that decarceration is the way forward and that real support and healing for these young people cannot happen in a cell. It happens in community with all of the people in this room today who are already showing you that it works. And we need to put a stop to this musical chairs of disappearing our young people. Concrete alternative solutions are here and the people are ready. I support the POC's recommendations and thank you for hosting this emergency meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. And we'll go to Lupe Ross. Lupe, you can unmute yourself and begin. Okay, Lupe, if you want to speak, you need to put your hand back up, but we'll come back to you. Paloma Serna. Paloma, you can unmute yourself and begin.
My name is Paloma Serna. I'm the mother of Elisa Serna, who died in custody November 11, 2019 in one of the San Diego County Jail. And I am with Saving Lives in Custody, California and North County Equity and Justice Coalition. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to this commission for your relentless work in the fight for justice, accountability, and the protection of our youth. Your decision reflects the community urgent call for change and your commitment to listening and acting with integrity. For far too long, Los Padrinos stood as a symbol of neglect and harm, a place where our youth were warehoused instead of supported, punished instead of protected. The truth is, the probation department has offered nothing but excuses time and time again when confronted with their failures. Excuses for the unsafe condition, excuses for the abuse, excuses for the trauma, but excuses do not bring safety. They do not build trust, and they certainly do not heal the damage done to generations of young people and families. The commission, on the other hand, had chosen accountability. You have chosen to act. You have chosen to prioritize the well-being of our youth and demands of a community that refused to be silent. Shutting down LP is not just a facility closure. It is a step toward dismantling a broken system and replacing it with something rooted in care, dignity, and opportunity. Our youth deserves better, and thanks to your advocacy that they are beginning to receive it. Your leadership gives us hope that true reform is not only possible, but already in motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Paloma. So deeply sorry for your loss and thankful that you're willing to be here with us. C.A. Romero, you're next.
Hello, can you?
Yes,
Hi.
you can start.
My name is Cia and I'm with Layup. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate what many of the incredible organizers and advocates have said in the room already today. I support the recommendations created by the POC and the amendments made today. The priority, given the circumstances and our countywide commitment to centering care, should be the safe release of young people into their communities with the support of people and organizations who know and understand them and have the ability to meet the immediate needs of young people and their families. Probation should not be creating a plan for depopulation without stakeholder involvement. Probation should also not be appropriating this moment to expedite their reckless facility plan. The BSCC has indicated that reducing the population is a key factor in reaching compliance with Title 15 of the California Code of Regulations, particularly as it relates to Section 1321 staffing. The facility plan does nothing to solve this emergency. The core of the crisis is not about the physical facility itself. The problem was with the county's antiquated approach to pre-adjudicated youth, evidenced by the repeated unsuitability findings of Central Juvenile Hall and Barry J. before LP even reopened. The connection between the proposed facilities plan and alleviating the abuse inside LP is unclear and does not detail how the needs and safety of the young people will be addressed, the overdoses, drug use, and abuse. What is needed is a short-term crisis plan specific to LP, which requires taking a step back from the facilities plan and instead addressing youth staff and provider safety needs in the facility. Thank you for this emergency meeting and thank you for your time.
Thanks, CA. We'll go next to Tali. Tali, you can unmute yourself and begin.
It's unfortunate that since the beginning of the implementation of the Probation Oversight Committee, that 99% of the meetings have been about detained youth. As has been stated before, probation has an entire field operation who collaborates with vested and evidence-based practice CBOs. This has never been an issue in referring our clients to these CBOs who are in the field. Some of the programs that we refer them to are substance abuse programs, mental health, job programs, housing, and educational programs, often working with them to obtain their GED or high school diploma. I am in agreement of decreasing the population of LP. It's horrific. However, there is what the chief is saying, 70% of the youth are in there for murder, rape, molestation, assault. We have a duty to protect the victims or next of kin of the victims who are deceased. Yes, CDP should be utilized more for kids who would qualify for that. The problem now is Chief Villarosa emptied out approximately 75% of the field offices just alone in this week, who are challenged with providing services for adults and youth who are released from county jail or released from detention facilities and now with us. So basically, trying to get this in. So basically, I'll end with that.
That's your time. Thank you. Next up, we have Tanya Ibanez. Tanya, you can unmute and begin.
Thank you. This is Tanya Ibanez, and I wanted to thank the POC for acting promptly in protecting the youth. I am in support of POC's proposal. The probation department has had years and months to implement a plan to provide a safe environment and a plan that would reduce the population. And unfortunately, it has just been too slow to implement any changes. The intake and detention process should have been reformed months ago. I recall that Ms. Epps testified before this board and indicated that the Department of Probation was looking into changing its intake and detention process, but I don't think anything really came out of it. I don't know if the probation department's hands are tied because of its own regulations or policies or procedures, but they've been on notice of the need to make changes, and they just seem to be too slow to do anything effective. So I am glad that the POC is moving in the right direction and providing the feedback needed so that we can provide a safe environment for the youth. And to the extent that the camp can take on some more kids, that's a great solution as well. But keeping these kids in the detention, the way they've been handled with pepper spray, physical abuse, isolation, that's not helping our youth. It's making things worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. We'll go next to Tori Gomez.
Hi, my name is Tori Gomez. I use she, they pronouns. I am a mother and lifelong resident of Los Angeles. I want to first thank the Probation Oversight Commission for the courage you have shown today. This is exactly the advocacy and nuanced conversation that we have been waiting for. I know it's not easy nor efficient to get into the weeds of what we are talking about here, but it is in the fine details that these changes really make a difference. Things like pre-conviction diversion, the arbitrary intake process, the realities of how youth get caught up in situations, and how ultimately these facilities are not just operating illegally, but are deadly for our children. As a mother, when I heard that there were 3 more overdose doses at LP this month, my heart absolutely dropped. So it also means a lot when the executive director, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name right now. It means a lot that you started this meeting centering the children, and that what we're talking about here is really how we treat our children in LA County. In relation to the order and to the commission recommendations, my thoughts are every single youth inside LP deserves to be reevaluated by qualified professionals, not probation officers. Second, they deserve to be given diversion options at every single point in the process. If there is a better option than incarceration, they should have the option to take that. Third, one thing missing in your recommendations is the money. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to incarcerate youth. Where is all that money going to go? We need to make sure that that money stays with the youth and is able to be used for basic needs, similar to how David Carroll mentioned the RAID program. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. Next up, we have Zoe.
The lead coordinators of the Zero Now initiative. Thank you, community, for continuing to show up for Care First. And thank you, commissioners, for acknowledging how dangerous the conditions are in probation's jail system and LA County's jail system. The solution is to bring young people home, and we are equipped to address the challenges and needs that are present for each individual young person. The Zero Now initiative is a collective of organizations, many of which are here speaking today. And we were formed with the express purpose of coordinating care teams for the girls and gender expansive young people. It's a model that can be used with all young people. We are available to coordinate people, and that's important in terms of coordination. So when Kruti showed you the pod map, everybody on that pod map is a resource in the young person's life, and often we are doing it individually with the young people. What Zero Now is, what our scope is to keep that pod together, to coordinate all those people so that we are forming that village that is needed around the young person, even though there's resources within each of those individuals. And it includes, as she mentioned, folks that show up for the young person. So it can be system partners. It has to be their public defender. We work with judges, we work with family, we work with caretakers. We can do it now. We are already doing it. It's in place. We are ready. I encourage you to learn more about it. There's an opportunity next Thursday. If folks are interested, please contact me. Bring us in. We can get to Zero Now with your help.
Thank you, Zoe. Next up, we have A. Pozos. Okay, and finally, Amy. Also done? Okay. Okay, so that's the end of public comment.
Thank you. I look forward to public comment.
Sorry, go ahead. I would love to offer a comment for you.
Okay. I noticed that many of you use your phones to write down your thoughts, I would love for you to take a screenshot of it. So maybe we can, routinely put them on our MySpace account.
MySpace.
Just kidding. Our our Instagram account, because I like reading and having your written word rather than having to go look for it or share it in our video is for me more impactful. So if you guys are willing to, just take a screenshot and send it to us, and maybe I can encourage our staff to post some of them so they're a reminder of what we're here for. Commissioner.
Yeah, I wanted to take a moment to I wanted to take a moment to personally address members of the public, specifically community members that commented today. I believe that you are truly the fuel to the fire of the work that we do, and I commend you, and I'm still learning a lot from you too, even as a commissioner with firsthand experience. One thing that's really important to me as a commissioner is that I never want to assume that because I have spent time in these facilities that my knowledge is all encompassing, right? And so I'm very dedicated to feeling and seeing and being reminded of the realities of what we're all trying to reform. And part of me feeling and seeing is going in the facilities. And I did that last weekend on Easter Sunday. I spent 8 hours inside of Los Padrinos with young people. And that was after they were confined to their rooms for 9.5 hours and not able to go to church on the holiday. The part of my visit, it was a super eventful day, but part of my visit was sitting in a room that I went back to after movement control sat me there for some reason back in the day. But it was after a probation officer had put me in a chokehold until I blacked out. And after that had happened, I sat in that very room that I sat in last Sunday. And I just remembered how I assumed my inferiority and how I deserved it because I never even told a staff member that it happened. And the reason that I'm sharing that here is because I'm reminded of the timelessness of trauma and how it revisits you even in what you perceive to be your most successful seasons. And so the need for you as advocates will never die, even for me as a commissioner. You know, these kids also assume their inferiority. They don't know that we're out here fighting for them in the way that we are. They do not know that they deserve it. And so as a commissioner, I oftentimes hear you speaking at the podium, and I think that you're advocating for me as my former self. And so you're doing beautiful work, and I thank you. And again, thank you for your fire.
Thank you. Commissioner Canales.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Commissioner Jackson, thank you for sharing your personal experience. I know that was, I didn't even realize that. And I know it means a lot because it's that transparency of our own personal experiences that bring us to this work often. But I just want to share because I did make a suggested amendment with Camp Kilpatrick, and I don't want to be gender biased. And I'm wondering if we can add to the amendment for the girls that are being reevaluated to move to Dorothy Kirby, since Beloved Village has all this state funding, all this county funding. Is there any way that we can look into some of these girls? I know they would love to take every single one, but even if we can get some of the young ladies there, is it specifically mentioned in the?
It's not specifically mentioned, but it would be part of the first one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. And I also want to comment to Probation Paredes, where he said about probation's voice too. And I know a lot of times when we hear the public comments and we've heard where it's just probation, we've seen and interacted with a lot of probation that have made suggestions to safely decarcerate, depopulate these facilities. They've given input, they've worked with us, and they have given input. And I bring up, I think, in every single meeting about the deployments, about the field officers, and even in our last one where we want to have HR there to look into these 16-hour shifts and labor laws. So, you know, for those calling saying that we only speak about the youth, well, yes, we speak about the youth because the youth are incarcerated in these facilities, but we do also bring up probation and the issues that are going on, because some of the calls that I heard, I thought, are they not listening to our entire meeting? So and then I think Commissioner Jackson started off with her amendment, taking probation into consideration and implementing that too in our amendments.
Thank you. So now that public comment is done, commissioners, do you have any final questions or comments related to the motion that is in front of us? Commissioner Cook. Yes, sir. Commissioner Kakani.
Just want to reiterate, I know you started the meeting with this, Chair Mundo, but it is wildly unfortunate that probation management isn't here. The number of times I've heard, at least secondhand, that the chief was somehow upset or implying that like the rest of us don't understand his intention, or that somehow we don't understand the system. If that's his belief, it would do him well to be here in something that resembles transparency and accountability so that he can be addressed and he can share how it is that this global plan will magically address BSCC and DOJ compliance, for example, or how it is that he's in fact taking into account community and stakeholder input while he is also stopping the sending of young people to Camp Page, for example. So it really is just a wild disappointment. I remember the chief's first appearance at one of our POC meetings. He stated something along the lines of like, it's clear that we've lost the trust of the community. That ship has sunk so deep, given his repeated failure to show up and be accountable to the public whose tax dollars he's responsible for using in what feels like wildly irresponsible ways.
Thank you. Commissioner Ship.
Yeah, and I'll add on to what you said. Like over the last 10 years, we've seen Los Padrinos close. We've seen Central close. We've seen Barry J close. We've seen Barry J reopen as an SYTF facility. We've seen Los Padrinos open, and it was supposed to be this end all be all, and that was just 2 years ago. Like we're not. This is recently. I think I just started this work when it opened up, and surprisingly it's closed. I think 3 months, 4 months later, it's unsuitable, and Barry J was unsuitable, and then now we're at this moment where 270 kids are displaced. They have nowhere to go, and they've been sitting in illegal, unsuitable facilities. And community has came every month to speak on this and give them their piece, and we don't even have the chief here. I feel very disappointed. I feel like I'm feeling the community's disappointment on this, and I wanted to underscore this because I don't want this to be a moment where the chief or just probation in general just moves these kids again, and then some of them may go to Barry J, and Barry J needs to shut down again. But this needs to be a real, true moment where we really make a change on how we do things. And we have around 2 million young people inside of Los Angeles County, but we're talking about we're only dealing with around 600, maybe 700 young people. This shouldn't be this hard to figure out. So I wanted to underscore that, and I wanted to make sure that was on the meeting minutes, not for this commission because I understand this commission understands this, but for probation, for the people who may not see this, and for the board of supervisors, because this is just unacceptable.
Thank you, Commissioner Ship. Okay, seeing no other comments or concerns, Wendy, would you read the amendments and then facilitate a vote?
Yes, so the motion made by Commissioner Mundo and seconded by Commissioner Terry is to approve the solutions to depopulate Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall and promote compliance with DOJ and BSEC related to the global plan, which is a document that is attached to the agenda and includes within it 6 recommendations. There were 4 amendments. The first amendment that was accepted by Commissioners Mundo and Terry was made by Commissioner Canales, which was to evaluate the Kilpatrick SYTF population for release to step down programs, especially Pine Grove. Next was an amendment by Commissioner Shipp, was to specifically uplift and name diversion through DYD as a goal. The third, which was by Commissioner Harris, was to incorporate number 1 from the Zero Now plan, which involves interagency collaboration on alternatives to assess for safe release. And the final one was Commissioner Jackson, was it's actually specifically written out, and she already sent it to us, which was to make sure that it includes the need for critical staffing balances. I'm not reading that correctly because I didn't write it down since you wrote it. You want to reread it?
It's to ensure the successful implementation of intensive service components. Probation officers and CDP staff should be supported by adequate staffing levels and resources. The plan should embody a strategic approach that balances facility deployment with community-based support that provides quality supervision, mitigates risks, and upholds the plan's goals.
Thank you. I'm very glad I asked you to do that. Okay, and so with that, I will call the roll. So please vote yes, no, or abstain. Commissioner Canales?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kakani?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Shipp?
Yes.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
And Chair Mundo?
Yes.
So with Commissioner Prater being absent, the motion passes unanimously.
So now we will move on to agenda item 3. For matters not posted on the agenda to discuss or place on a future meeting agenda for action. Commissioners, do you have any announcements or items you would like placed on a future agenda? Commissioner Meredith?
Yeah, I just want to point out part of the problem we have is staffing not showing up for work, and that does not make me happy. And I understand on Sunday, Easter, there was quite a number of sick call-ins. That's not professional. And as much as I support all our hardworking staff, those that are not doing their job, just know I'm very displeased.
And thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Meredith. That is actually one of the main agenda items proposed for the May 8th POC meeting is a report from Human Resources from the department. So that agenda will be released next Friday, a week from tomorrow. So that is something the commission leadership has asked for the department to report on.
Commissioner Shipp?
Yeah, I would also want to add, talking about that notification system about like young people not knowing who their probation officer is, and when the field deputies get called in and out, I think like especially when a lot of young people may be coming on CDP, they should know who their probation officer is, who is supervising them. So I do want that to be on the meeting at some point.
Thank you, Commissioner Shipp. Commissioner Harris?
I would like to accept Kruti's invitation to consistently be meeting about this until there is movement, and to be consistently meeting, to be consistently working with DYD to actually get a plan from the probation department. I think we cannot let this up. And if it requires special meetings, in addition to our regular agenda, it needs to be agendized regularly at our monthly meetings. And I would seriously consider posing to my fellow commissioners and the staff that we, maybe not saying weekly, but very, very consistently.
Well, I think our next meeting is in 2 weeks.
2 weeks from
and
today.
then from there, we can basically talk about that and see if we do that. For me, commissioners, my colleagues, I remind you that the leadership team is open to discussions anytime, and to any agenda items. And I invite you to come with me to Court Watch there's a lot you see in court watch. You talk to officers that are assigned to the court that are probation. You talk to the DA, and you talk to the public defenders. You actually even talk to families, and you really get an idea of all the problems that not handling LP has created. Families that don't know their probation officers, have not seen them because they're deployed. You sit in the courtroom under 676 cases and you listen to public defenders and probation officers, the court officers basically say, there's no one there to do the report, or the person that did the report doesn't even know the kid. I talked to filing deputies who talk to people who are writing the most critical report, probation rights, the motion for transfer, that are being now done by people who have never even worked juvenile. You see all this, it comes to a head in the courtrooms. And so even people from the public, just reach out to us and join us at Court Watch. It's really, really eye-opener, and it's where it all comes together. So thank you. Okay, so agenda item number 4, adjournment of the special meeting of April 24, 2025. Thank you all for joining us and sharing your comments. As a quick reminder, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel at LA County POC. Is it just that? To receive reminders of our meetings, visit our website at poc.lacounty.gov to subscribe to our email listing. It is now 11:40. Can I have a motion to adjourn today's special meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Commissioner Jackson.
Okay, a team motion to adjourn. Please unmute yourselves and vote with the voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you for joining us.